Many thanks to Magtech Ammunition for sponsoring today's video. It's the only ammunition that goes through my pistols or rifles and is the best stuff on the range.
Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. My name is Samuel Middlebrook and I'm here with my good friend AJ Zito. And AJ is with Practical Performance. He's a gunsmith, he's a shooter, he's also one heck of a fine human being. And I love you, dude. I'm honored that we get to do this together.
Me too.
We're gonna talk a little bit about this firearm. This is a HK Mark 23, affectionately known as Alice. This, believe it or not, is my carry gun. And let's talk just for a second why. It's not about the caliber. It's not about the capacity. It's about one thing and one thing only. I happen to have normal adult-sized fingers and then these gigantor palms. And the Mark 23 is the one firearm that I've been able to, or the one handgun that I've been able to pick up and think, oh, this is what a gun is supposed to feel like. And it just works for me and for my hands. Now, just for fun, for America, and for ridiculousness, we decided it would be really fun to comp this gun. And so, AJ, tell me a little bit about the process of building a comp for a Mark 23.
So, building a comp has some different things that go into it, unlike building, a gun or a barrel, right? So, we all kind of think that barrels just sit in a gun and, here's the top of the gun, here's the barrel, and there's a straight line all the way. But what people need to understand, and what really comes into play with all comp design, is that barrels and guns sit at angles, which whatever that angle is changes with the type of gun. If you're a fan of the 1911, it's going to be a 1 degree angle. Basically all the Browning guns are like that. But that presents some problems when we try and put a comp on a gun that, someone in, say, a country known as Germany have really good machinists and they build everything perfectly square. When you build everything perfectly square and then you put an angle into it, things don't always work out so great. We had a comp on this gun previously,
We did.
which didn't work out so well. So what we had to do was just kind of build a comp from scratch and account for the things like barrel angle and weight. And, weight's always a big thing too with comps. A lot of guys think some of the compensation, the comping ability, has to do with the way ports are. And it is mostly the way ports are designed and the angle ports are cut, but the weight of the comp has a lot to do with it as well. Typically, the heavier the comp, the better it'll be, until you get too heavy and it no longer lets the gun work the way it wants to. So with your gun, we definitely had to take into account the weight of the overall comp.
Sure.
And we ended up coming in just under 4 ounces on that one.
Let's talk just for a minute about the problems with the former comp in that here's what I experienced. I would line up my sights, line up my dot, fire the shot, and had no clue where that round was going to go. Now, I'm not the greatest shooter in the world, I know that, but I also know that if I aim at something, the round typically tends to go where I'm aiming, but not with this. Why was that?
So again, taking into account all the things we understand about barrels, you have a hole which the bullet needs to pass through, and the hole needs to be straight in relation to the bore of the gun or the muzzle of the gun. Yours was not. And you have what we commonly refer to as baffle strikes. So as the round's being fired out of the gun, it leaves the muzzle and it starts hitting the comp. And yours was hitting on the top of the comp, which then sends your bullet wherever it kind of feels like going at that moment.
So I'm starting my shooting sequence with a ricochet.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. So it's a huge problem with compensators that aren't set up correctly. It's a huge problem with suppressors that aren't set up correctly. Basically anything we're going to attach to the muzzle end of the gun, it can be an issue. With yours, however, which was really interesting, your comp actually wasn't attached to the muzzle of your gun either. It was attached to this adapter rail you have, which in turn created some of its own issues as well and aided in the baffle strikes.
This particular adapter rail connects to the firearm with a screw mount through the forward part of the trigger guard. And so that was creating some issues as well.
Yeah, that one was, again, going back to the weight issue, your comp system, including the rail, was so heavy that as you're baffle striking it, it is loosening itself because of the force being produced forward and back with recoil. So what it does is it unscrews itself from the gun, and you showed me the video in slow-mo of the gun, or I'm sorry, of the comp, literally moving under
rocking
recoil.
back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is beautiful.
Thank you. It's not done yet.
I get that, but this is beautiful. How do you go about crafting something like this?
So that's a good question. The big thing first is I start by putting the hole in. So the most important thing on a comp is going to be where the hole is located, where the port where the bullet is going to exit lives. And then understanding that, yes, bullets are round. A 45 caliber bullet is 0.451 inches in diameter, but you need some leeway around there. So we open up that hole a little bit, and we drill that through. And based on that hole is where we base every other dimension off of. And then it's basically, make it look like a comp at the end of the day. How we set it up, and this started life as just a big hunk of aluminum, and then we whittled a little away here, whittled a little away here. Besides the actual through hole, the biggest thing is the type of ports we're going to do, what angle we set the ports on, where the ports are going to be located. I'm a big fan of putting them as far out as I possibly can, keep that gas as much as I can until I want to get rid of it.
Sure. And for those that might not know, what is the purpose of these ports? Can you explain that to the viewers?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is to really quickly just dump gas. And typically how we want to dump the gas is kind of up for debate. Some guys really believe we want to dump a lot of gas really quickly and then bleed off gas. And what that's going to do is really it's going to drop the pressure following that bullet extremely quickly. So that's really what we're trying to do, is drop the pressure as fast as we can, which is going to give us a softer felt recoil, really. So again, a lot of guys think you can put a big port at the back and then bleed off gas. Some guys believe in a series of popple holes or little holes or through holes. There's lots of ways to build a comp, and they all work. The biggest thing is to drop the pressure of the round as it leaves the gun.
Well, John is a big fan of bougie guns. I don't think there is a more bougie gun than this one right here. And you have put together something that I love already. Haven't even been able to shoot it yet, but I love it already. So here's a question. How many hours of gunsmithing work does it take to put something like this together?
So with this particular one, because we were really having to figure out how it was going to work in relation to letting it sit inside this rail adapter and some of the other things that are going along with this particular firearm, took a little longer. So just machine time and figuring things out. Right now we're at about 2.5 days. So 16 to 18 hours in that comp right now. Now that's a lot of, sitting at the bench, taking measurements off the old comp, figuring out how we're going to do that, deciding, okay, what angle am I going to set your ports to? How am I going to drill the through hole? What am I going to make the weight of the comp at? So right now, as you see it, it's about 16 hours into that comp, 16 to 18 hours. By the time it's done, there'll probably be 22 hours into it once I get it polished up and finished out and make sure everything's good and ready to go.
Now, where is the external button for auto accuracy that I asked about?
It's built in,
Okay.
so it's
Okay,
automatic.
cool.
You don't
Cool.
even have to worry about
Cool.
it.
Can't wait to
That
try
was
it.
an important thing I do remember you requesting.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Thank you for
You bet.
thanks for this, and thanks for
very
taking the time to explain this to us. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, this is AJ Zito. Thanks for checking it out.